right, so welcome back to the Altyverse, the show for mortgage pros who just want to level up on their non-QM game. Today, we're joined by Rudy Orman. He's the Senior Vice President of TPO Lending at NQM Funding. They're a mortgage leader down in Florida. And Rudy's been doing this for 35 years, and he's a master of non-agency and non-QM lending. So Rudy's seen this space evolve from a niche kind of, we don't talk about it type of business, right, to now what we believe is the essential for loan officers going forward. So, Rudy, if you don't mind, could you just share a quick background on you, a little bio, where you've been, what you like doing, things like that?
Like a lot of us in non-QM, I came up through the subprime mortgage business. I spent 10 years at Household Finance, started the correspondent group for them, and then went over, worked for Goldman Sachs on the subprime mortgage desk. Market crash, fast forward, the non-QM business started. It's not subprime. Let's always start there. We don't want to bring subprime back. This is actually a better product, but it's similar in that there are story loans. There's a lot of work to originate it. It's not an agency push button get loan. So you've got to help structure it. And it makes it interesting. I love the story loans. Subprime, we did that too. So that's the only kind of similarity between subprime and non-QM is structuring the loans, story loans. Every loan's a little different, a little bit of nuance here and there, a little science, a little art, but it makes the job fun. So yeah, we did about $6.5 billion last year in this stuff, and we're looking to grow it this year too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I screwed up at the beginning of this. So JP, I'm just going to start over with my opening. I was pulling from the wrong place, so I'll do a better transition to you there, Rudy, this time.
Yeah, sure.
And if you wanted to go through that part again, you can.
Whatever.
If not, he'll just piece it together.
Whatever.
All right. So welcome back to the Altyverse Podcast, the show for mortgage pros who are ready to ditch the vanilla and go deep into the world of non-QM lending. I'm your host, Gabe Gillen, and today we're talking about something that every originator needs to hear. It's how to build a winning non-QM business in today's market. And here to help us break it down, I'm joined by a true industry OG. We got Rudy Orman, Senior Vice President of TPO Lending at NQM Funding. So Rudy's been in the game for over 35 years. He's helped build non-QM platforms at some of the biggest names in lending, and he's one of the clearest voices in this space today. So if you've been waiting to hear from somebody who's just going to give it to you straight about non-QM, this is the episode. So Rudy, let's kick it off with your story. You've had a long, successful journey in the business. For folks who don't know you yet, how'd you get started? What brought you to your current role at NQM Funding?
Well, like a lot of people in non-QM lending, I came up from subprime mortgage. I spent 10 years at Household Finance, starting the correspondent division, and then went to work on the desk at Goldman Sachs in the subprime mortgage side. The market crashed. We all know that story. Few years fast forward, non-QM starts, and I got into that too. Now, subprime and non-QM are completely different.
Absolutely.
The only difference is they're loans you need to structure. They're story loans. Takes a little bit of time. Not every loan is the same, which makes it very interesting. And that's why a lot of subprime people are in non-QM, is because we're so used to structuring deals, trying to get deals done, knowing that every situation is different, asking a lot of questions. And that just kind of makes the business fun.
Yeah. So I think about subprime and non-QM and just like that alternative doc, like that's kind of, they all roped it all together, right? And, the biggest thing that I find with non-QM is it's a manual underwrite, right? I mean, I know some non-QM lenders have their AUS system that they built and whatnot, but for the most part, it's a manual underwrite, extremely high exception base, right? A lot of exceptions where something's a little bit off. So it doesn't have to meet the guides at all, where agency is just, you got to fit it here, get that AUS, So what I enjoy about it, and I think people have said, is, the performance on these, like as far as delinquency, these are good borrowers. These are good loans
Yeah.
from a secondary appetite. And, I think that's why it's a shame. It's a shame that people kind of put them into the same space as subprime when, a lot of these people you're looking at the collateral, you got a strong asset, God forbid you have to take it back. You have a plan, right? As the owner of that. And, and everybody's trying to pay as little taxes as possible. So,
Well, yeah. And the similarities are they're structured on a securitization side, very similar.
Yeah.
They are, like I said, story loans. You have to structure them. 30% of our business is exception. We did $6.5 billion last year. 30% exception.
A lot of exceptions.
Manual underwrite. But again, that to me that makes it fun because every deal looks different. But if you look at like the strats on these securitizations, completely different from subprime. Average LTV is in the low 70s. Average FICO scores in the high 700s, right? You have people have reserves over 12 months. These are third-time home buyers, fourth-time home buyers. So you don't have a lot of first-time home buyers. You don't have a lot of low credit score, higher FICO or higher LTVs. So the loans are very much different, and that's one of the reasons they perform. Because they are just better credit quality, better LTVs.
Yeah, no, I mean, so if we ever see a 100% financing non-QM product, then that's when we know the trouble's coming, right? I think that's
100% program, and then when you have a sales rally in Hawaii, then you're done, right?
Then there's too much money's being made. We got problems.
So we don't want 100%. In fact, if you look at the pricing, anything over 80 gets really, really bad. Pricing gets worse.
There's not an appetite for that, right?
They go to 90. We could go to 90, but it becomes very expensive. So generally, we're looking at 80 or below LTVs. And again, these are third-time, fourth-time home buyers. They're purchase or cash out. Rarely we see rate and term. So they're purpose loans, but a lot of the people have a lot of money reserves. They have a lot of cash. They have positive equity. So and they're doing the loan for a reason. So that's why there's kind of an influencer drive for them to get the deal done.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So all right, so NQM is doing some interesting stuff today, right, in the non-QM space. So really, I'd love for you to give us a quick little elevator pitch, right? So I know you guys did almost $7 billion last year, which is amazing. For this year, well, like, what's your guys' mission? Well, and what do you think you guys are going to continue to do and do currently? It really makes you guys a little different than some of the other wholesale and correspondent NQM investors out there.
So we're backed by Mass Mutual. So we have a big insurance company that backs us. Our goal this year is $8 billion. We have, 3 channels. We do 2 delegated, non-delegated correspondent. We also have a wholesale channel. But the fact that we're portfolio investors, that's a big plus. Plus, we have they're going to start securitizing under their shelf. So that gives us kind of a dual funding strategy where we can take advantage of securitization, but also take advantage of portfolio products. So that gives us kind of an edge. Look, there's a lot of similarities. Some of our competitors, we're all kind of friendly. We generally say, look, if you're going to get a non-QM, you should probably have 2 or 3 investors. So we do stuff that other people don't do and vice versa. So you should always have 2 or 3 guys. And then the exception piece of it is a big deal. So being able to help you structure the loan, makes us a little different.
Yeah. I mean, I've been personally working with you guys for, I don't know, probably 7-8 years under different, back to the NP Inc., the previous names. And, we've had great success. And what I've found is that the account executives at NQM Funding, they're really hands-on, right? And at least the one we've worked with. So I'm sure all of them are similar. So we really enjoyed that experience. So, all All right, so let's kind of zoom out a little bit. You know, there's a lot of loan officers that'll be listening to this, and I really want to hit on something that's going to help them as well. So you've seen this industry evolve. You've seen some crises. You've seen some all the ebbs and flows and the cycles. Probably 3 to 10 cycles. I don't know what it's been so far, but what's your take today on where non-QM stands? Right, like, are we in a golden age for alternative lending right now?
Yeah, so we're seeing, so we keep an eye on securitization and the spreads on the AAA deals, and the spreads have gone down way low. We actually saw, right after COVID, they were, over 200, and now they're at 90. We saw a deal go out, 90 basis points spread. And what that does is that just means that there's demand for the bonds, which means there's demand for the loans. The loans get collateralized into bonds. So yeah, big appetite for the bonds, which means a lot of liquidity for the product. So we think it's continuing to grow. What we're trying to do is get people to go find the non-QM borrowers, originate to that product versus just reacting to someone who suddenly becomes non-QM and they didn't even know it. We're trying to get loan officers to go out and go find people that kind of know they're non-QM. They're not as rate sensitive. They realize that they have kind of income. They're either self-employed or they're real estate investors. Their situation is different than your typical, rate and term refi borrower or first-time home buyer. So we're trying to get people to go out and find those leads and originate to that. We believe that's going to increase their business by 15% overall. And as a byproduct, they probably will find some other core product as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, I don't know if it was MBA or if it was, Fannie or Freddie that kind of put out some forecasts, and they're talking like 20% of the market is what this is going to be,
right?
It should be in 26, and then who knows, it might further expand as as long as there's a strong appetite on the secondary market for this, then I would assume, and that's beneficial for loan officers, right? The more of an appetite there is, the more buyers, the lower rates can be.
And there's another thing we're not talking about, no one's really talking about, but I'm keeping an eye on, is what Fannie and Freddie do, right? So the tighter they become, the more that gives us more product, because we're private lenders, private money, however you want to call it. So if Fannie just makes a tweak on anything, it affects our business, largely. So it could be, we saw it with non-permanent resident aliens. If they decide they have a pricing change on, I don't know, some nuance to their
second homes, investment properties,
second homes, anything,
right?
They catch a cold, we get pneumonia, so to speak, right? It really affects them little, it affects us large, right? So I think that the more Fannie and Freddie tighten up, and if they ever become privatized again, lower the loan amounts, whatever, it's going to give us more opportunities to keep growing that business as well.
Yeah. So, a lot of loan officers are always curious, okay, like, if I want to get into non-QM, where do I go first? Right. So, there's a lot of different products. Sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Right.
What would you say is the biggest opportunity? I know every market's different, right? Like, I'm in Toms River, New Jersey. You're down in Florida, right? Tampa area. Your market's totally different. You may have more foreign nationals down in Florida, right, than I have up here, perhaps, or more investors that want to have short-term rentals in their portfolio.
Right.
So maybe the DSCR would be hot there. I'm up here. Maybe I'm more of a bank statement guy, because I got a lot of self-employed people that have expensive homes, high real estate taxes, and they don't want to pay Uncle Sam too much, so they want to make sure that they're writing down their income.
Yeah.
What would you say is like an area where they could go to first?
Okay,
right? I know every market's different.
Right. So I start with website. So first thing I do is go on the website. If I don't see a page for self-employed and a page for a real estate investor, I'm like, start there. That's free. That's easy. So you put a stake in the ground. You say, I'm in the non-QM business now. Right. There's two borrowers really just to focus on: self-employed and real estate investor.
Yeah.
Self-employed borrowers. All you do, and I tell them, like, spend an hour a week on this, right? So instead of talking to realtors, call your local accountants. There's a bunch of them in your area. Google it. Make sure call the guys close to your house, right? Say, hey, I do loans to borrowers, self-employed borrowers who don't show their income on their tax returns. Do you have anyone like that? And the accountant's like, I have everyone like that. Are you kidding me? And say, look, I can help. I'll give you my information, or if you have anyone directly you're working with now you'd like me to follow up with, let me know. If the guy's interested, stay in touch with him twice a month. Take him to go get coffee, bring him coffee, whatever. Because again, down the street, say, hey, I live on 3rd Street. Your office is down the road. So you're local, you deal with, you specialize in working with self-employed borrowers who don't show their income through their taxes. That guy's got most of his customers like that. So if he likes you, he'll either have the customers call you, or he might even go so far as give names for you to call them. So there's free leads, right? There's other ways to find self-employed borrowers. LinkedIn. I live in Tampa, self-employed. You're going to find a whole bunch of people on LinkedIn, right? You could, civic organizations you could join. There's lots of different, meetups for self-employed borrowers. I think the accountants are the quickest, easiest way, because they have a lot of people they work with and they're usually friendly. It's not like calling on a realtor who's got their defenses up. This guy's like, as long as it's not around tax season or he's busy.
Stay away April and October.
Yeah, right? Stay away from tax season. Or one thing we used to do back in the finance company days is we'd bring them baskets or donuts, put our card in, Hey man, I know you're busy. Here's some donuts, whatever, right? Just think of it.
Do something.
Yeah, something, right? But they're a lot easier to call. Okay, so that's finding self-employed borrowers. Real estate investors, guess what? They get together a lot. There's a lot of social gatherings for real estate investing companies. They have groups on LinkedIn. They have groups on Facebook. They advertise their meetups. They like when people come in. They like new people coming in. These are real estate investors. If you are talking to realtors, they have a rental division. Call on those guys. Call on that realtor. That realtor never gets any love, because the rental property realtor, none of the loan officers talk to him. You talk to him. Say, look, I work with real estate investors. Do you have any? Everybody that I work with is a real estate investor.
Yeah.
I could do multiple properties. I qualify their income just on the subject property. I don't care how many properties he owns. You give him that pitch, right? One loan becomes 10 loans. Gabe knows this story, right? And that guy has a brother-in-law. He's got 40 rental properties, right? So one loan becomes 20 loans, right? I know I'm making this overly simplified, but those two avenues alone, if you spend an hour a week on that, you're going to get leads. You're going to get leads, and then you might even get core business. You might get agency business out of it, right? But it's a way to find people. And by the way, these real estate investors, if you can hook them up with your realtors too. So your best realtor, all of a sudden you're giving him leads, right? For listings. Can you imagine that? Hey, Bob, I got a deal for you. This guy's got a house he wants to list. You want to list it for him? How magical is that, right? Giving realtors leads for listings.
I mean,
and you're going to do that when you tap into that real estate market. So
it's just funny. Like, I'm thinking about, if I was going to go back full force and just originate, I would focus on non-QM. I truly would. I mean, I would go spend time with those people. I would join these real estate investment groups,
right?
Because people are going to work with you if they like you, right? So assuming you're a good person and you're likable, like you will not strike out with this.
I'm telling you, I've been to those real estate investment meetings before. Everyone's friendly. Everyone wants to talk to you. What are you doing? How are you doing? What do you do? And I loans to real estate investors. Oh, wow, that's great. So the life cycle is they buy a crappy house, they get a bridge loan or a fix and flip loan, short-term financing, very expensive. They fix it. Then their strategies are, I'm going to flip it and sell it, or I'm going to keep it and rent it. If I'm going to keep it and rent it, I got to pay off that short-term bridge loan, right? They want to talk to you, right? Roughly 50% of the business is flipped, so you're not going to get that one. But the other 50%, they're going to keep it and rent it. They need you. They need your loan because they got to pay off that short-term financing. So understanding how their business works is good too. Ask them a lot of questions, and if you partner with those people, again, they're going to be very appreciative of what you can do. And then again, you could use like, hey, I've got a realtor, by the way, if you ever want to list it with realtors, or if you're looking for pocket listings, hook them up with your best realtor. Now you're giving your realtor business too. So it's a win-win. It really is.
Yeah, I had coffee on Monday with a 19-year-old kid. He's a realtor, and I got introduced to him by an insurance agent who he met at a political meeting in town here, right? So 19-year-old kid, realtor, and he overheard him saying that he was doing fix and flips. So that he introduced me. So my insurance friend introduced us. So we had coffee on Monday, and I explained and taught him that the BRRR pro platform, or that idea,
right.
which is what you described. Buy, renovate, refinance, and then repeat.
Right.
So and he was like, all right, but I want to build something that's going to have an asset value. I said, well, then you got to hold. You got to hold and put long-term renters in there, right? If you want to build something, that's the difference, right? You can make money off these flips, and I encourage you, maybe do 8 to 10 of them,
right?
And do it. Now you got your own cash
flow.
Now you can go buy. Now you don't have to use that hard money loan. You can buy and do it, and then you can hold on to it, and you can repeat. So what you're talking about is really what all these investors are really doing. It's just a
lot of what these guys do too is they'll bid on 2 or 3 houses, right? Thinking they'll get one.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get none. Sometimes they get 2, and they're like, "Oh crap! Call my father-in-law. I need to borrow money." Right? This is how they do it.
That's how this kid started.
Or I don't want to get, because they don't want to get loans. Usually, they want to do this with all their cash, because getting a loan is expensive, especially you're getting a loan on a property that's not cash flowing. That sucks, but that's what you got to do, right? And the tick, 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 the clock is ticking. I mean, they make HGTV shows about this all the time, right?
Yeah, of course.
So that's where they got to rely on financing. So you need to be kind of in the dugout, using a baseball terminology for you, Gabe. And you got to be a relief pitcher, and you got to make sure that they call you up if they need you. And so hopefully they won't need you, and you want to cheer for them, like, hey man, you got this with cash, you flipped it, you didn't have to borrow, fantastic. But sometimes they bid on 3 houses, and what happens when they get all 3? Now they got to call the bat phone and start getting their friends and money and loans to acquire these properties, right? That's kind of good news, bad news for those guys.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll share one more client story. I have a client who has 190 doors that he's managing, all long-term rents in West Virginia and Ohio.
Yeah.
His plan, what he does is he buys them with cash, his own cash, and then he gets a local bank to refinance it after he does the rehab. But the local banks, which are great because they know him, but they give him like a $4 to $5 million limit, right? So I had a conversation with him about using us as either debt service or even a cross collateralization, where we can then pay off 5, 10, 25 of these properties, so you can get your money back to the bank, local bank, and just do it again. This is how you're going to go from 190 to 500.
Right. And, leverage.
But it's all DSCR. I mean, it's probably the number one product, besides maybe bank statements, get in there, in the non-QM space.
Well, it's funny. My cousin's got probably 300 houses, and in Memphis, Tennessee. So Memphis, Tennessee has the lowest home value with the highest rental income in the country, or it did. And this could have changed. This was a year and a half ago.
Well, now that's where everybody's going to go if it has.
So, but I mean, it's easy. Those numbers are publicly available. But so he owns a carpet store in Southern California. But he was like, did the research, and he's like, I need to be in Memphis. So he starts investing, and He's got a property manager there now and everything. He's got all the properties lined up, knows which ones he wants to buy. But yeah, but his job, he had cash, so he had a runway he was able to invest in and turn it, and the cash, and pay stuff down and pay stuff off. But did it through DSCR loans originally, and now he's got financing through a local bank that I hooked him up with in Memphis. But you start with one. It starts with one house and it grows there. But you really want, if you are going to buy and hold, you need some cash.
Yep.
And you also need to make sure that it's got your basis, what you buy the house for, is low and the rent's high in that market.
Yeah. So you mentioned something before that I want to go back to. You were talking about how, a lot of loan officers probably look at non-QM as a rescue product, right? Like,
right.
Oh, my underwriter's not approving it because my DTI is a little too high, or, the something, whatever it is, right? Income is once you do a calculation of the 2-year average, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you think you can shift that mindset, right? Because you did mention like that's important. Shifting that mindset of using it as a last resort or a rescue product and making it be more like, more front of the mind, right?
Right.
How would you kind of change a loan officer's perspective about that?
Right. So 2 ways to get non-QM: by chance or by circumstance, right? So by chance would be the guy that thought rates were 4% still, and we're told there's 7, but he qualifies for a higher loan interest rate because he's a non-QM borrower. His pull through is going to be very low because that guy's going to be like, I'm going to go shop around, and he's going to end up with a mortgage broker somewhere eventually. So that's a tough one to get anyway. So go after the borrowers that kind of know they're non-QM, the self-employed guy that doesn't show his income.
Right.
He's written millions of dollars of his income off on his tax returns. So he qualifies for a little bit higher rate than an agency. But he's still ahead because think about all the millions of dollars he's saved.
Saving, for sure.
Yeah, so the math still maths, right? Go after that guy, the guy that knows, like, yeah, I'm going to take a little bit higher interest rate than market. I know that, but I'm still way ahead of the game because I've written off for years so much of my income legally, and that's the way the tax works. That I'm good with it. And 5 years ago, most self-employed borrowers are like, I can't qualify for a loan because I don't show my income. So the non-QM business has really helped generate self-employed borrowers. They know they have an avenue now. What's interesting though is a lot of realtors still don't understand non-QM.
And they need it, right? 1099 income, they need it for themselves or their
1099. You could do it. Most of them are 1099. We could go. Most people go up to take up to 90% of their 1099 income for realtors, so you can get realtors loans. So yeah, there's still not a lot of education going on to real estate agents on the space too. So they may or may not drive that self-employed guy around, or even convince that self-employed borrower they could get a loan too. So still not a lot of information out there. We need to do a better job with that.
Yeah, so that actually just gave me a good idea. So JP, write this down, man. We should consider having a realtor section or a realtor place in the Altyverse for them to get some more information as well.
Yeah.
So
I only get charged 10% of the overall gross on the idea.
Yeah, no, totally. So now I want to talk about the future, right? The future of non-QM. I know you mentioned that you are keeping an eye on what the agencies are doing, because that could create an influx of business, right? Or it could also be how you may shape credit policy changes, right? To adapt for that. What else are you looking at into 2026? Any kind of trends in underwriting, product innovation, AI? Are you bringing anything? Do you see the industry or just NQM funding that it's doing something like around that space?
Yeah, it's been an hour since we said AI, so we obligated to say AI every hour, right? Everyone loves to talk about AI. Yeah, we're trying to be innovative.
2026.
Yeah, 2020. We're trying to be innovative with a lot of process flows using machine learning or just improvement that way. But it's tough to make the, like the exception business automate that. And you kind of almost don't want to do that, but you can make other things in the process flow, automated. There's still a lot of product ideas out there to talk about that we're looking at. We're expanding our I-10 program, for national, but those are like pockets, niche business. We want to keep exploring higher loan amounts. We go up to 5 million. We think we could be doing higher loan amounts just because we're portfolio. Securitization kind of stops at 3.5 million. I feel like they need to revisit that, keep going up a little bit on the loan amounts. So there's like tweaking here and there. We're rolling out a doctor program, which I kind of think that's another small niche business. I don't really see like giant leaps product wise, but I see like little baby steps.
Yeah.
Product wise, I think it's more like the big push is going to be getting the loan officers to understand it and getting more people to want to embrace it and originate it. I talked to I'm not going to say what it is, but I talked to a very large retail company. They do $3 billion a year in production in agency. And I get the line of, well, we don't really get much demand for non-QM.
Yeah, they're out of
their
mind.
I said,
we should say their name. Let's just let's out them right here.
No, I don't do that. But I say, look, and no one orders pizza at a Burger King, right?
That's true.
So if you ask Burger King, no one eats pizza because no one orders pizza at Burger King, right?
My 7-year-old would ask for it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not on the menu, buddy. We're not even looking for it. So that's why you think there's no pizza, but a lot of people eat pizza. So that's available. So go out and get the pizza, so to speak. So using an analogy, but when I hear that, I just cringe. I'm like, yeah, because you're not looking for it. You're not advertising it. You're not pushing it. Cross country put a stake in the ground a couple years ago and said, we're in the non-QM business. This is what we're doing. And now I don't know what the number is. I don't even want to guess, but it's very high. They do probably 2-3 times more than the national average in non-QM because they said, we're going to be in that business. This is the business we're going to be in. We embrace it. So you've got to embrace the product as a company to really do that business. And we're seeing more and more people, larger lenders that were brokering to us now becoming a correspondent for us because they're embracing it. So I'm seeing it grow more. I think that's where the opportunity is going to be, just educating the loan officers and the realtors to them to understand what the product is. I don't want to hear, I don't really get a lot of people asking about it, or they don't really come in. You're not looking for it. You're not marketing it. You're not trying to go after it, right? So when you do all those three things and then you say that, then I'm like, you're doing something wrong then, because those people are out there.
Yeah, and you mentioned loan officers, realtors, but from your seat, being managing and running the TPO channel, I got to assume it's also educating, talking to these owners, right? That $3 billion company that says, we don't run across it. Yes, you do. Your loan officers do every day, right? So it's educating them. Yeah. And then the companies need to create a platform or an environment where they can give tools and education to their loan officers, or they can just send them to the Altyverse and we'll take care of them. We'll teach them.
There you go, Altyverse. Put it on your website. Be the president of your company. Say, look, we're embracing this. Yeah. We're going to grow the business this way. Rates are not going to go down this year. If they do, it won't be material. How are we going to grow our business? We're going to add product. We're going to help you go after that product. We're going to educate you on the product.
Yeah, no, that's great. I know I was an early adopter into non-QM space. It must have been 2017 or 2018, right around, maybe I waited like a year after, just to kind of see what was going on. But I remember my warehouse bank, when I called him up and I'm like, hey, we're going to do this. And Southern guy, so I'm not going to try to do the accent, but he said, if you're going to write these loans, you better be ready to own these things. And, now fast forward, we're good friends, right? Yeah. 8 years later. And we kind of laugh about that. I remember where I was standing when I was on my cell phone talking to him. And every time I see him, I kind of bring it up. Remember when you said that? Remember? I'm like, how much of your warehouse lines got non-QM in it? So
I started a non-QM platform before this job with a bank in Nashville, Reliant Bank.
yeah,
And
I
I had
remember
to
that.
talk to the board. And I said, this is a borrower you do all day long. This is a borrower who has $3 million of money in your bank right now. He's got two dealerships. He doesn't show his income. He's a huge depositor. And he called you up and said, I want to buy a house. And you give him the mortgage. You do, because the guy puts $3 million in the bank, right? I said, you're doing this guy all day long. This is the borrower we are going after. And they're like, oh, we understand that as a bank. We understand that. And then we had to go to the FDIC. We said the same thing. We're like, you guys, all your banks are holding this stuff now. Oh, we understand that borrower. That's the borrower we're going after.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, they called it a portfolio loan, right? That's what they called it before, right? I mean, that's all it is this is a business decision, something our risk appetite.
Right.
We know this customer, they're a bank customer. And that's
actually, if you can originate, if you're a bank, you can originate that bank statement loan. You keep it on your balance sheet. You don't call it you don't have to call it non-QM. That's the law.
What do you call it?
You call it a portfolio loan. It's not classified as a non-QM loan. If you're a bank that originates it and holds it on their balance sheet, it's not even considered a non-QM loan.
That's interesting.
That's the law. Yeah.
So I want to ask you something else. So tech is creeping up in everything, right? Automated bank statement analysis, pre-qual tools.
Yep.
Do you feel that technology is going to continue, or is currently even helping originators embrace the non-QM space, right? Maybe less friction?
Yeah, I feel like the mortgage business, we still are way, way behind in technology as an industry.
Yeah.
Sort of laughable. So today, here's our tech. Here's everyone's tech. We get PDFs, bank statements, pages submitted. We scrape them off automatically. We put them in the machine. It comes up with an answer. And within an hour or less, we give you a response, right?
So that is automated now. That's not, they used to be, it started out being human, right?
Scraping it off. It's sort of automated, but scraping it off a PDF, right?
Right.
Here's where we should be. This is Rudy Orman talking now.
Yeah.
When you dial, like for any of your point of sale, you upload your bank statements on your point of sale. You have a point of sale, I'm sure, Gabe.
Yeah.
And your borrower logs it. And the point of sale, they put their credentials in their bank, and they upload their bank statements into your LOS. So they're getting it from what's called source data, right? So the source data then converts it into a PDF, because you can't read the source data. So here's where I think we should be. Why are we not just adjusting the source data, and let's skip the PDF scraping it off? And then if they can't read it on the scrape off, then they have the person looking at it. Is that a 3 or a 5?
Right.
Let's ingest the source data. It's electronic. It goes from one computer to the next. You don't know what you're looking at. You can't see it. It's X's and O's, right? And then you get the information quick, seconds, right? No stare and compare. No scraping off the data on PDF. That's where we should be. Are we going to get there? Probably not. But to me, that's where this should be. But we're still pulling up PDFs, uploading pages of PDFs, and then scraping the data off, when it could be just done electronically from the computer's bank to our system. And your POS is doing that, by the way, for you.
Yeah, you would think like, for our point of sale, right? We have the opportunity to send out like a verification of assets, right? Like a Plaid or account check or any of these kind of companies, right? That data pull, if that could just go right into a system and then spit out an income number, that's it.
It does. It goes in the system. But we were like, we got to hold paper. We need paper. We need to look at paper. So then it says, well, here's the data. And then, we got to convert it to paper for the mortgage people.
I get some of it's old school, right? Like I still have these. I get made fun of all the time for having a,
you got paper, man. You got a file. You have loan files. Look at you.
So what else would my office look like if I didn't have I need paper somewhere. somewhere, right? You got to use it something. So that's
But
yeah.
we
I
were
mean,
talking about technology that, and he pulls out a file, and I'm not making fun of you because that's the
no,
mortgage
trust me, I got
industry,
tough skin. So wow, yeah. I mean, it is interesting where. What else do you think, right? Like Rudy, you've been doing this a while. Whether you think it's going to happen or whether it's not going to happen, what do you think else should happen, right, in this space? What else do you think, as an industry or to have a competitive advantage for someone in your seat or another your boss? What else should they be doing right now that that maybe they can't quite yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we just need we needed more we need more data, and we need to manage more data. I think that all this stuff that's been originated, especially the stuff that goes into securitizations, up until recently, no one's been sharing like the performance data. And I'm a
Okay.
big data guy. So like I want to know like, is it blue houses that are a problem? Because there is some delinquency. Delinquency is very low. But and there's since there's valuation, meaning there's enough equity, it never goes into foreclosure. The only time you go into foreclosure is someone dies or there's some kind of really major life event. But if the guy falls behind on his mortgage payment in non-QM world, he's gonna pay you off. Because there's just too much equity for him. Like I want to see
Too
that
much
data.
risk.
I want to know because what happened in '08, if we remember, is HPA, home price appreciation, dropped.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people that had equity had no equity or negative equity, and they bolted. They walked, right?
Yeah.
So we don't see that in non-QM because home values are still higher and the LTVs were low. So there's still enough equity. So we're not gathering the data of why'd that guy fall down? Well, we don't care because he didn't really go into foreclosure. He just paid us off, right?
Right.
Because we're on that wave. We're on that HPA wave. I don't think we do a very good job of saying, yeah, we're on the HPA wave, but what would happen if we weren't? What happened? What happened to those people? Why did they go delinquent? Is it the blue houses? Is it geographic? Is it he's self-employed? Is it
Right. His type of business, right?
Yeah, we're
Whatever
not
business
looking
he's in.
at the real data. And the only time you look at the data is when home prices start to decline. I've been doing this. I'm 62 years old. I've been doing this a long time. So we've seen trends. You've seen trends too, right?
Oh yeah.
So we just need more data. We're not doing a very good job with data. And again, mortgage industry, we're still kind of behind the times on a lot of this stuff.
Right, and being proactive, right? Proactive rather than waiting to be a problem,
Right.
because you could probably guess or expect, if home building suffers something, right? The cost of construction goes up, right? And then home building slows, then maybe that loan to that client profile where it's a builder or construction or GC or construction worker, self-employed home builder, like maybe that would create a higher rate of default, right? So like there's got to be some kind of things that happen. But to your point, yeah, unless there's just a massive industry-wide problem, national problem with appreciation and home values, it's kind of off the radar, right?
Swept under the rug. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great observation. I appreciate that. So before we wrap up, I would love to kind of hit you with just some rapid fire type questions. I'm only going to give you about 10 seconds. I'll give you 15 seconds to answer them, right? Because I just want to get, for all the loan officers listening, I want to give them 3 takeaways here. 3 things that they're going to learn if they got nothing else out of this. I want to get this out there. So first one, what's one non-QM product that every loan officer should try to learn in the first quarter of this year?
DSCR.
Got it. What's one mistake loan officers should stop making today?
Trying to put loans in, non-QM borrowers in on a high LTV, low credit score loan. That doesn't work.
Got it. What's one mindset shift that will change a loan officer's non-QM business forever? This could be somebody doing nothing today. Just keep that in mind.
look for leads in places you've never looked for before. We could talk to you about ideas, or just sit down with friends, or just think about ways you could find self-employed borrowers and real estate investors.
All right, man, that was awesome. So before we end, actually, I do have one more thing because I'm always interested in this. And you mentioned it. You mentioned something earlier about it. What is it about insurance companies having such an interest in this product? Because when you think about NQM Funding, you think about some of the other players, your competitors, there's almost always an insurance company that's a partner or that's an investor or that's behind the scenes. What is it about insurance? Because what I've been explaining is, well, they got these whole life insurance policies and variable life insurance policies where they're guaranteeing this minimum return. They must need something to fill that. That's what I've always thought. But there's got to be more to it. And I know you're more entrenched there, where you probably know this a lot better than I.
Insurance companies they're asset managers, right? They get a lot of money they bring in through premiums, obviously.
Right.
And then they pay out little. They bring in a lot, they pay out a little. They also have what's called annuities. So these are like investment products that they sell, market to. So that ends up with a lot of cash, right? And they have to invest their cash in stuff, right? So they get invested in like what's called QSIPs, which are like, they do. So they these are like securities, bonds, liquid kind of structures that they invest in. But then they also invest in commercial real estate and mortgage. So a mortgage is like a bond. There's an interest payment and a principal payment. So it kind of acts like a bond. It is a bond. And that's why they sell loans into securitizations and collateralize them in bonds. You get a principal payment and an interest payment every month. And they like that it's residential, it's people's houses, and they can kind of control that. So that's generally, they're looking for kind of like safer, and they don't need to be that liquid for insurance companies versus like hedge funds need more of a liquid product. So right. A mortgage is perfect. It's like a long-term bond that they can get a principal payment, interest payment. And it's like a higher kind of return than they could see maybe in other kind of investments. And it's secured and it's safer than, so for the credit quality and the return on equity, or the return on investment, mortgage makes a pretty good investment. Now, the downside is you got to buy a lot of them, or you could be in the commercial real estate space and you could just buy one loan versus, whatever, 500, right? Mortgages. So that's sort of the downside. But most insurance companies are like the mortgage,
right?
Yeah,
that risk is spread out that way, right? That
one
you got one asset.
They like the mortgage, so they like the mortgage business because it's kind of safe and it's they understand it, and they could build data. There's a lot of data around it, so that's why the insurance companies like mortgages.
That's fascinating. So I know this is not necessarily your or my opinion, but insurance companies, I've heard from others that they don't like to pay, right? They don't like to pay out, right? So they're very cautious, and their business model is such that. So if they're going to invest in non-QM and they don't like to lose money, you have to assume this non-QM space has been vetted. They use actuaries. They got all these people, statisticians doing all this stuff. You got to assume that if they support this, then why aren't more, right? And
right. So you look at, like I said, you look at charge off is on zero. Delinquency is a little bit high, not a little bit. Delinquency's jumped up a little bit, but still
a little higher than agency. Would you say?
What's that?
Is it higher than agency?
No, it's much lower.
Still lower than agency.
No, yeah, much. But the charge off is zero. So that's why they like it. It's FICO scores are high, LTVs are low. So it's a good investment. It's a sound investment. They probably would like a little bit more return on their money, but who doesn't? But the charge off is, and look, insurance companies, we used to joke about insurance is expensive when you don't need it, right? So you're paying premiums and you never have to make a claim. But that's the nature of insurance. And you're not going to be an insurance company and pay out more premiums than you collect, then you're an out of business insurance company, right?
You would be out of business. Yeah.
And we can talk about the Re's and how you move your risk around. But that's generally, you want to collect more premium than you pay out. That's how you stay in business. Simple.
Yeah, so, well, Rudy, thank you, man. This has been an absolute clinic. Thank you for joining us today, sharing your real actionable wisdom. So for those of you listening, if you're listening to this conversation, hopefully it's lit a fire under you, and do something about it, right? Reach out to Rudy. Check out NQM Funding.
We have a deck we could go through with loan officers and it's not a commercial about NQM Funding. It's really just about talking about how to find non-QM leads. Happy to show it to anybody that would be interested.
That's great. And, homework for you listening here today is, most importantly here, go out and close a non-QM loan next month, right? I'm not going to say this month because depending on when you watch this, there might be a couple days left, but next month. And you can find Rudy on LinkedIn. We'll drop his info into the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to the Altyverse wherever you're listening, because next episode, we're breaking down how DSCR loans are helping loan officers dominate the investor market. You don't want to miss it. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again for joining the Altyverse.
Thanks, Gabe. Good job. Thank you, guys.
Rudy.
See ya. Bye-bye.